All right, interesting one here on the disinformation front.
This is amazing. So let's put this up there on the screen. I almost couldn't believe it whenever I read it, which is that
amazing.
Reid Hoffman, the billionaire behind LinkedIn, and George Soros are starting a new media firm who is led by Tara McGowan in order to combat disinformation. So I feel like all three of those names are very loaded.
They're
George
infamous.
Soros needs no introduction. Reid Hoffman actually has already been caught funding disinformation by Democrats in the state of Alabama, to which he had to apologize for. Well, they have teamed up with Tara McGowan. So you Bernie people might remember, she was the person who ran the nonprofit called Acronym, which built that horrible app that was used by the Democrats, this literal shadow app in Iowa, which led to that total and complete cluster.
And by the way, very conveniently, she and her associates all supported Pete.
That's right.
And this all seemed to really
winning the Iowa caucuses.
Pete.
Okay.
Weird, what a coincidence.
All of that on the table. So, they are all teaming up together to start a site to combat disinformation. And it's called Good Information Inc. That's not a joke. To fund and scale businesses that cut through echo chambers with fact-based reporting. As part of its mission, it plans to invest in local news companies. Now that sounds terrible. And actually what's even worse is that they have went ahead and they are acquiring some different brands. And so Courier Newsroom was one of those that they went ahead and acquired. It's a local news group with a, quote, progressive perspective.
That was run by Tara.
Run by Tara.
Yeah.
So basically, Soros and Hoffman buy Tara's little group, and now she gets to run it. But I'm really concerned about this, Krystal, because this is exactly one of those things where, in the name of combating disinformation, you are going to have these billionaires who are absolutely not acting in bad faith, working with a literal Democratic operative, and they could be infiltrating local news sites to try and turn them into propaganda. And Reid Hoffman has already done this. He has already funded fake news projects in Alabama, spreading disinformation, posing as local news sites. And again, he had to apologize for this in the past. So can you think of anything worse to combat disinformation?
Like, if you were gonna come up with a project to prove the points we've been making about how all of this is just about having control over the dialogue and about a power grab and wanting a different set of billionaires to be the ones in control of who gets to say what within the political narrative, like, you could not come up with a project that more perfectly proves that point. And just to go in even a little bit deeper on, so Courier Newsroom, which was a Tara McGowan project, their whole thing, what they did is they set up these quote unquote local news sites that are meant to look like, oh, it's just a local blog giving me local information, whatever. And it's literal, expressly, this was the whole plan of the project, literal political propaganda. There's one in Virginia right now. If you go to it, every single article is about how terrible Glenn Youngkin is and how great Terry McAuliffe is. So the lead right now is, if we do have Glenn Youngkin as the governor of Virginia, then we'll be just like Texas, referring to the Texas abortion law. Here's another one. How can Virginia spark small business growth? Terry McAuliffe asks owners. Here's one on education. Here's why Glenn Youngkin's embrace of the school choice movement has some worried. Every single article is just political propaganda that they're very, pathetically trying to disguise as we're just your local news source. So Courier Newsroom is actual misinformation.
Right.
Like, it is actual propaganda misinformation. And this isn't just me, looking at it and putting a spin on it. Vice News got their hand on the memo explaining what Courier Newsroom was all about and what their goals were. And it was all about, Tara McGowan is a Democratic Party operative. That's who she is. Which is fine. But the idea that you're going to be this neutral arbiter of fact and fiction in the political dialogue is insane. So their whole pitch on Courier Newsroom was, here's the voters we're going to reach. Here's how many we're going to be able to persuade. No accident that the first local news, quote unquote, groups that they set up were all in swing states. It was when Virginia was having elections. That's when this thing ultimately launched. So again, the thing that they acquired to start their good information, anti-misinformation group is literal misinformation. Like, you just literally can't make it up. Not to mention, the other part of this that really gets me is the Iowa caucuses were a shameful, embarrassing failure that undermined everyone's faith in democracy, period.
And they should have,
like,
yeah.
We literally never got an accurate count of what the caucus results were. We never did. They just gave up. They're like, well, this is close enough, and we're gonna give it to Pete. So she was intimately involved in that dramatic, embarrassing, terrible for the country failure, and is effectively being rewarded. I mean, there is no failing in the Democratic Party so long as you serve their interests. That's ultimately the bottom line here. I would love to know how much, she would ultimately, her Courier newsroom thing, which is like, I don't think has had much of an impact, how much that was acquired for. I'm sure this is a for-profit entity that they're starting. So yeah, you just fail up within the Democratic Party ecosystem so long as you serve the centers of power that exist within that party.
And if you worry about misinformation on Facebook, what's even worse about this is that they use these legitimizing sites and they try to pressure Facebook in order to make them like a trusted source of information so they can go and fact check different stuff, right? So it has a good veneer, then Facebook will give it the green light, preferential treatment in its algorithm, and now you have fake news under the guise of combating misinformation spreading like wildfire and being shared by, I make fun of right-wing boomers a lot here on the show, left-wing boomers being like, oh my God, can you believe this? Share on Facebook, share on Facebook to some group or whatever, and sending it to your nephew, even though he's like, Grandma, please stop sending me this stuff. It's completely not true. So
I mean, and just again, so this is not my left-wing bitter about Iowa take here. This is from Salon, okay?
Right.
Salon wrote, an affiliate of Acronym, Courier Newsroom, has set up what appear to be local news sites, but are actually propaganda efforts aimed at creating content to be shared on social media to boost moderate, read conservative, Democrats. So that was their whole project. Fake news was literally their project. And now they're taking that and buying it and turning it into we're the good guys, we're good information, we're gonna tell you what's true and what's false. Wow.
Really, really pathetic.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it, you get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.